Welcome to the Dance Your Heart on Fire podcast, the podcast dedicated to inspiring dancers worldwide whose hearts have been touched by music and dance. The universal language of dance and music is spoken by many of us throughout the world. We want to motivate the dancer in you by sharing stories, insights, and ideas to enhance your journey. Join us now with your host, Charles Ogar.
Hello guys, this is Charles and
Emily B.
And we are bringing you part 2 of the 6 reasons why Kizomba sets your heart on fire. In the first podcast, we went over the first 3 reasons and it was pretty awesome. And we appreciate you guys coming out to check out the next 3 reasons. Like I said, this podcast is kind of to spread the overall knowledge of Kizomba. There's a lot of misconceptions out there. Some people are head over heels in love with Kizomba. Some people are like, I don't get it. Hopefully with this podcast, you kind of understand a little of the reason of why it is and it means so much to so many people around the world. Is there anything we should say before we get started into the 4th one?
Well, I think the fact that we love Kizomba so much that we couldn't fit everything that we love about it into one podcast, so we have to have a part 2, is a pretty resounding reference for how lovable Kizomba is. So if the fact that part 2 even exists doesn't convince you, hopefully by the time we get through number 6, we will convince our listeners.
Ooh, I like that. That's a challenge.
It is.
All right. So reason number 4 is this euphoric feeling of the whole world disappearing and having that light bulb Kizomba connection moment, as Emily had put it before. And I guess I want to start off this topic of just realizing kind of like the state of the age that we're in right now is very digital. We have Snapchat, we have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Vine, we have all these different social media outlets and ways to connect. We have Plenty of Fish, we have Tinder, all these things to kind of get to know people. And yes, all of these things are awesome. They allows us to kind of cross barriers and get to know people and share ideas and joys and happiness and knowledge and all that good stuff. But I feel there's definitely a kind of a con to all of this digital stuff. It's like just being able to lack the human to human connection, being able to go out to a dinner and not be on your phone. And I'm guilty of this as well. Just being able to go out with a dinner with a friend and not be on your phone the whole time, or being able to like go anywhere or spend some quality time with another person and being able to appreciate actually being in somebody's presence versus just, I guess, maintaining that relationship digitally, you know? Absolutely.
And I think the draw for Kizomba, especially for those of us for whom physical touch is our love language, is that it's so real and it's so tangible, and it's a way of connecting with another human being in a not necessarily romantic way that I think a lot of times we don't really have in our society. So for me, I think like euphoria is the best way to describe this moment. And most Kizomberos I know, and certainly most people I know who fell in love with Kizomba, had like this very clear, salient memory of a dance that they had with someone where they felt so present and so in the moment that the rest of the world felt like it slipped away. And I mean, to me, it's this amount of consciousness and presence of mind that it's difficult to achieve, like you were saying, Charles, like in the digital age, when not just because people are connecting technologically, but also because we have so many distractions. And to be connected in a way that is so conscious, it just feels wonderful, because humans are social creatures, and I think we're really built to crave that connection with other people and to feel interconnected and to feel a part of. And, especially as a woman, the comparison of dancing Kizomba versus going to a bar and get hit on is just like in a whole different level, because I've told Charles this before, that like if someone who I met Kizomba dancing like walk up to me in a bar and try to hit on me, like I wouldn't be trying to hear anything that they had to say. Mm-hmm. But but in the context of dancing, where we know socially this is, we're what we're doing and we're just here to enjoy an activity, it doesn't have to be linked to dating or romantic interest or something. It really makes, as a woman, I'd say, makes me feel more comfortable about being physically close with someone and sharing a dance, which in a lot of ways can be very intimate, but only in the sense that you're kind of mentally and emotionally connected to what's happening in that dance at the time.
For sure, for sure. So two things came to mind with what you were saying. The first one was kind of like the Kizomberos that you found that are like completely addicted to Kizomba, that have had this like transient, super connected, euphoric Kizomba dance. I will say, and this will kind of be an assumption, but I would assume that the people who have not fallen head over heels with Kizomba have not yet experienced that kind of special Kizomba dance, because depending on where you are learning Kizomba might be like, oh, you dance Zumba. It's like, no, it's not Zumba. It's Kizomba. Or, I mean, people might know what Kizomba is, but though you can only get like one song or three songs in like a whole night of social dancing at a Latin club, or you might not get any Kizomba, or maybe you have to travel to a Congress because there's no Kizomba in your area. So depending on where you're at and how much Kizomba is around in your local area, the opportunity to dance Kizomba is really rare. And that's something we're going to be talking about as well, is like having multiple dances with one person. Because if you don't dance those multiple dances with one person, it's hard to get into that I guess, super connected dance, because it definitely doesn't happen in one song. And that's one thing I've talked about with a lot of salseros and bachateros, is that they need to realize that it's okay to dance multiple songs with one person, and you don't have to feel bad by it. Typically in salsa bachata, you just dance one song and then that's it. And if you do dance multiple songs with one person, it's like, oh, look at them in the corner. They're dancing 3 songs to stay there. Bone chicka wow wow, or all suki now kind of thing, But in Kizomba, it's completely normal. Like, that's the norm. You dance 15, 20 minutes. I think my record was like an hour and a half with Elia Perez. If you're listening, I still remember you from Madrid, December 2012.
He still talks about you, girl.
I totally do. That was my magical Kizomba moment. It was really nice. But yeah, like, if the environment has to lend itself into that kind of environment, and if you don't go to like a Kizomba where like there's a DJ and there's like he's mixing and he's reacting to the crowd, it's hard to achieve that.
Totally. And I mean, I think it is important to distinguish it again from it not necessarily being a romantic thing. Like, my light bulb Kizomba moment was when I was dancing with Tanya, when Tanya was leading me when you guys were down here last year for the workshop. And she's a friend. And after dancing with her for a certain amount of time, like, I felt like I was reading her mind. And I guess that's kind of what I mean about being really connected and really present. It's not like meditating in the sense where you're just sort of going inward and trying to clear your mind from thoughts like your to-do list or, your argument with your boss or whatever like that. I think it's also about being conscious of what the other person is communicating to you non-verbally. And the feeling for me as a follow is like, I find that I'm doing something and following something before I consciously realize I'm doing it. So it's almost like, it's
deja
like my
vu
brain
kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. That'll happen a lot of times when I'm practicing with Josh. He'll lead something and then I'll realize that he led it and that I'm doing it after it happened. And I didn't realize that I did it. And I certainly didn't consciously think he's trying to get me to do this, because I feel like I'm so connected that we're moving as one.
Yes. Kids as one, as Cam and Marine like to say. So I just wanted to just make a quick note here that Kizomba is not the only dance where it's accepted to dance multiple songs. I remember going to a milonga at this tango festival not too long ago, back in March last year. And it's actually I guess, I don't want to say the rule, but like, it's the kind of how the social dance floor flows. You ask somebody to dance and you dance a song, then the song stops and there's like a little intermission and they play another song and you dance with the same person. And during this intermission, you get to talk and like converse a little bit. Then you'll dance a second song with that person. I forgot the official names. I know there's like a tanda and like a milonga, and then I'm pretty sure somebody will be able to comment in the podcast and let us know exactly what the names are, or if I Googled it or something like that. And you'll do this 3 times, and then after you go through those 3 tango songs, there's like a song that's kind of different from all the rest that lets you know, okay, that's the end of that rounds of 3 dances, and then you go and dance another person. But it's always, if you ask somebody to dance, it's expected you're going to dance 3 songs with that person, and that's the norm, you know? So I think with the reference or the similarities that we have between Kizomba and tango, obviously Kizomba is not that structured, but I feel like sometimes I do want to have that structure just so people can like get out of their comfort zone and at least dance 2 to 3 songs, because it is kind of like a Kizomba etiquette kind of thing, you know?
I like that. The idea of changing the social norm of how many dances you get from one ask.
Yeah, because it's kind of like this unwritten rule when you go to Europe or you go to other places that has like an established Kizomba scene. But for the people who are learning it here or who come from a salsa bachata background, they didn't get the unwritten rule book to know what to do on the Kizomba dance floor, you know?
Exactly. And I'm thinking of that conversation that we had with Michael.
Yes.
He's going to appreciate the shout out, I'm sure. Michael is relatively new to Kizomba, and he's a badass salsero and bachatero more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was maybe his first social.
Yes.
It was his first social, and I was dancing with him, and he, even though he was new to Kizomba, you know, we had a really great connection, and I wanted to dance with him for a second song.
Mm-hmm.
And so he wasn't sure. We were talking about it afterwards. He wasn't sure what to do when the song ended, but I was so still, like I wasn't even like breathing or moving my hair. I wanted to be so still, so like we could just move on to the second song, and like, because I was ready to dance the second song with him. And he was talking about how he was sort of insecure about it. I was like, well, does she think that I'm being clingy, or like, does she even want to dance with me again? Because, you know, I've seen her dance with other people, and I think she's more experienced than me, etc., which was funny. And I think that's great, because it just goes to say that you can have that connection with someone who is a beginner, and you cannot have that connection with someone who's really experienced. That there's certainly, being a more experienced dancer helps to like reach that euphoric Kizomba nirvana. And I mean, I definitely experienced it a lot more in Europe when I was dancing with more experienced dancers. But there's also this other thing, and this like kind of X factor. And I think it's like the same sort of chemistry you have with meeting a new friend or even dating, where you just kind of connect with someone when you're on the same wavelength, and that non-verbally somehow, you know, our energy, we're communicating with each other and this way through dance, and you can, you know, find and then like Michael became my friend, you know.
Exactly.
So
I think you should tell the story about meeting Brandon for the first time.
Oh, okay. Since we're giving shout outs to coolies that I like.
Hey, Brandon.
What's up, Brandon? Brandon is in, where is he? Ohio?
I think he's in Ohio, yes.
He's in Ohio. Okay. So Charles has a forum called Kiz Connection, and he, you know, posts different topics that are related to Kizomba or dancing in general. And there are a few names that come up a lot where I find that I really, you know, kind of resonate with some of the comments that they're making, and Brandon was one of them. And I was noticing, like, yeah, I was liking his comments a lot. He was liking my comments a lot. And then I went to Vegas the weekend before last for the Kizomba, Zouk, and Bachata festival. And I didn't, like, recognize him right away from like the forum, but I noticed there was this guy who was a good dancer. And so I grabbed him for a dance, and he said, "Oh, I think I know you." And I was like, "What, stalker?" I had no idea who he was. But yeah, he recognized me from the forum, and I had awesome dances with him. So yeah, I was just telling Charles that, like, we've talked about the reverse happening, where you have great dance chemistry with someone, you know, like guy or girl, and then you hang out with them later, and they, you know, become your friend because you realize that you totally vibe with them in terms of your personality and everything. And this was sort of like the reverse engineering of that, where, you know, I was enjoying his contributions to this forum on Kizomba, but then also we had, you know, really, really good dance connection.
Yeah, the same thing happened to me this past weekend in Tampa. There's this girl named Marie, and she's in Montreal, and we had been texting each other back and forth for like over a year, and just like different stuff from time to time. And we finally got a chance to meet each other in Tampa, and we had really like awesome dances, like musicality. We were just dancing up a storm. Like, it was really, really nice to finally meet her. And so it's kind of like that same story of like reverse engineering, like meeting somebody, vibing with them digitally, which is what we talked about before. And then meeting them in person and then being able to like really just vibe with them in person. So like you just have a drink with that person, just feel comfortable around them, you know?
That's awesome.
Yes. Kizomba love.
Kizomba love.
All right, we're going to move on to reason number 5. That was a really good chat. I'm kind of like patting myself and patting yourself on the back. I don't know. I just felt that flowed really, really, really well. That was really awesome. So reason number 5, Tada Shinya magic. If you don't know what Tada Shinya is, I guess you can type it in and Google it and see what it is. Maybe that might be the best introduction of what Tada Shinya is.
we might edit that.
But I guess a good definition would be like the hypnotic hip movement that grabs your attention with Kizomba. So I think we should say, being like professional Kizomba educators, you know, there is like kind of traditional Kizomba that doesn't have the same sensual vibe as like Tada Shinya does. So there's different flavors of Kizomba in like the Kizomba umbrella. So you have kind of Kizomba, which is kind of like a family dance that can be danced. Like I could dance Kizomba with my mom, I could dance Kizomba with my sister and things like that. But if I danced a sensual song with my girlfriend, it's like kind of like the same moves, but like my intention, my connection is different with that person. And especially Tada Shinya, that kind of takes the sensuality to another aspect that kind of incorporates more body movement that is not grinding. Did I say not grinding?
Tell them again.
Not grinding.
Tell the people in the back. It's not grinding.
Did you guys hear me in the back there? Not grinding. Tada Shinya is really just like a lot of like close body movement, and there is respect, there's etiquette that goes along behind it. It's not just the guy standing there not moving and the woman kind of moving in a snake-like fashion against him. Like it's a mutual dance, you know? So for the guys who are Kizomberos and you're not working on your body movement, I'm watching you. Hopefully
I'm watching you too. I'm not into it. You gotta move your bunda too.
Yes, for sure. And if we're going to talk about bundas and like being famous and popular in the Kizomba world, of course, there's Sarah Lopez's bunda that's been all over YouTube and Facebook, and she's super popular. She's probably the most popular Kizombera in the Kizomba world for a while now. Especially even after her breakup with Albia, she's still kind of been kind of crazy, and people love her energy and her vibe, and of course her bunda. So before I talk about the appeal for the guys being visual creatures and the woman moving their bunda, which is kind of obvious, let's go ahead and talk about a woman's appeal to want to move in that way.
So I think like a lot of people, one of my introductions to Kizomba was seeing Albir and Sara dance together on YouTube, and to me it was so different from what I was used to for salsa and bachata, and that like it seemed sensual, but there was so much movement that was coming from her hips, and I just was it really appealed to me, the idea to dance in a sensual way, but to have it be, you know, something that's like a social dance that you can go out and do. And I think for a lot of women, not just me, they really feel as though their sensuality is a huge part of their personality. And I think a lot of times we get sort of mixed messages in our society about how really to express that.
Definitely.
We have like a real hookup culture where people, you know, go out to bars and meet each other and go home together. And I think for a lot of people, that's maybe the only way to express their sensuality, which is really so limited, right? To just like a sexual context. And it's also it's not very connected, and it's not very intimate if it's just this sort of random thing. But I think it's a very natural and human thing to crave not only intimacy with other people, but the expression of your own sensuality. And I've been to other countries and other cultures where it feels a lot more accepted for people than it does here in the United States for people to express their sensuality. I think like slut shaming, for example, is a really big thing in the US, not only in terms of someone's sexual habits, but also the way they dress and things like that.
For sure.
You know, I've been to other countries where it's much more accepted to, for example, go to the beach topless, and it doesn't have to be a topless beach for that to happen. Yeah, I think a big part of the appeal is for there to be this context where it's okay to be sensual and to express that, and for it to not necessarily be associated with being sexually intimate with someone, you know, that it's just like it's just a dance. It's something that you do, like people do karate or like, you know, drink wine and paint or whatever. and that the idea that this could be my thing. And, along the same lines of Tarashinya not being grinding, I think the most important thing is that your hips don't go further forward than neutral. So you see a lot of movement, and that's what makes the dance appear so sensually. But if you watch closely, you'll notice that when Sara Lopez is moving, her bunda is going backwards into her own space.
Not forward humping.
Yes, not forward. And my experience has been dancing Tarashinya is when I have dances with someone where the guy is moving as well. It is so much more enjoyable and such a better, like more respectful,
for sure,
dance, and like a more skilled dance when the man is moving as well. Because what I do if a man is holding completely still and he is just like pounding his fists on my lower back is I stand completely still. Because what it feels like to dance against someone who's not dancing at all, it's like dancing at someone. It's like giving a lap dance to a statue. And it's about as sexy as giving a lap dance to a statue.
I've never heard that reference. I want to make a meme. That is totally going to be a meme. I'm going to find a picture of a statue and be like, guys, don't be the statue. You have to move your body. This is dancing Tarashinya to a statue is not sexy. PSA. That's going to happen. That's definitely going to happen.
I think it should. Actually, I got that idea from I did a hashtag that's like something about lap dancing with a statue on when I shared Marietta's post about men needing to move their bunda too.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's so true. And like if this is my PSA, fellas or just leads out there, if you are incentivized to want to make a woman do these kinds of movements, the best way you can initiate the movement in a way that she's going to feel like comfortable and expressive doing it is by moving yourself. Like if you stand still, you're going to get a creepy, awkward vibe really soon and then wonder why she doesn't hold completely still when the second song comes on, hoping that you have another dance and she's running the other direction. For sure.
So there's a lot of good points that you just made. And I just want to give like a shout out, another pat on the back to Emily. This is one of the major reasons why she's on the podcast with me, because she comes up with these awesome one-liners for nothing. I just love it. But this was like a major motivation. Like this is why you're on the first two podcasts of the podcast, because you're just awesome. So as far as, let's talk about just society for a second. So it's really weird. Like I know, like hearing you talk made me think about like the whole Free the Nipple campaign and just like how women's bodies are like centralized right off the back. But if you go to like other cultures, like a human body is a human body, it depends on the context that makes it central or not. It's just not central right off the back. And then like the whole breastfeeding in public thing is a huge issue for some people. Some people are like, no, you can't do that. Those are sexual things. You can't have them flaunting around in public. But then you go to Victoria's Secret and see like a big blown up image of like boobs in a bra, and it's like almost like cut pretty low. So it's like, okay, what's the difference? It's okay for somebody to do something like Victoria's Secret, but it's not okay for somebody to do something natural that's completely not sexual. So that whole society, like that mixed message that you were saying, is definitely something that's out there, and it's difficult to figure out what's supposed to. We want women to be sexy, but at the same time, they can't be too sexy. They can't have sex. They can have sex, or they can't have sex with too many people. And we want them to dress sexy, but then they can't dress too provocatively. So it's like this balance between both of them, and it's really confusing. And then also, as far as just back into the confinements of Kizomba, being able to express your sensuality in a safe way, I think it's an awesome outlet for that. I feel like it's an awesome outlet for guys as well. The statue is not a statue thing, kind of. It's a mutual thing. It's kind of like having a woman in bed. You don't want to be a statue in bed, You really want to be able to move with your partner and like express yourself, And some guys are really resistant to like learning the body movement, but I'm telling you guys, like once you get the body movement on point, like you definitely move up the ranks of Kizomba leaders at the socials of like who's enjoyable to dance with. And I feel sometimes a lot of us are all like, oh, I want to learn all of these urban kids moves and lifts and tricks and all this kind of stuff. And like, if you just focus on some good body movement, I'm pretty sure you'll have a line of girls that'll be willing, like happy to dance with you without any tricks and just some like really good, gooey, honey butt piston body movement,
You were going to talk about the bunda appeal from the guy's perspective.
So obviously we're a visual creature, guys, you know? So, I mean, we see a woman moving her hips that way. And I mean, I just want to say that a woman moving her hips is not something that's unique to Kizomba, you know? Like you see it in bachata, you can see it in Kizomba, you can see it like with twerking, like all this kind of stuff going on, you know? So it is a visual appeal, but I find it's really, really funny because like you see the girl, you're like, oh man, she moves awesome. I want to dance with her. You dance with her and you can't see her action, you know? So it's kind of like this catch-22, unless there's a mirror and then you're watching a woman's movement in the mirror. But guys, another PSA, do not be the guy at the social that posts up right next to a mirror and is just watching the body movement with the partner and not moving anywhere. It's really obvious when you do that. I don't think it's enjoyable.
It is so obvious. It's so obvious, and we're telling our friends about you. And I have to say that when I'm dancing with someone, even if my eyes are closed and like someone comes in a room and their attention is drawn away, like they look in another direction, even if their head doesn't move, I feel like I can sense the guy's attention or the lead's attention going somewhere else.
Interesting.
That's true when you're dancing tarashinha up against a mirror, except I am competing with my own bunda for your attention. And that is so weird. And it's such a bad idea. Please don't.
I hear you. So yes, no dancing tarashinha in front of the mirror, guys. You see the girl, you want to dance with her. She moves really well. You dance with her, but you can't necessarily see her movement if you're at like a Kizomba social that doesn't have a mirror, you know? But I've created a meme that says that Kizomba has kind of taught you to appreciate the beauty of a woman without your eyes. And I think that's something that's really appealing to itself. I would definitely say since I've learned Kizomba, like I can definitely appreciate eye candy and like a good toned body with curvy stuff. Like I'm a black guy, you know, you guys can kind of put two and two together. But at the same time, dancing with somebody and not having your eyes closed and being able to appreciate like her presence and her body without necessarily having to see it. You feel it, you know, so you feel her beauty without having to see it. And I feel that kind of lends itself to appreciating intimacy, not necessarily judging a woman on how she looks, but how she feels in your arms and kind of how she makes you feel in general, like her connection, her vibe, you know?
I love that. And I think it's a big part of the appeal of Kizomba. And this kind of goes to that, our fourth reason, the euphoric sky opening light bulb Kizomba moment where you feel so connected with someone, is that especially as a woman, it feels so great to have someone's attention for an extended period of time, and to have someone's attention not because of like necessarily what you look like. So I think another common experience, going back to I don't know, American society struggle with intimacy, I guess, is like the underlying theme. If you're like walking down the street and some guy catcalls you, you have his attention for maybe 4 seconds. And that's like a visual thing. But to have someone like be present with you and be connected and, mentally paying attention to you without actually being able to see you, I think that's something that's really unique to experience, especially with someone who isn't like your romantic partner necessarily.
For sure. And I feel that might tie into people whose love language is quality time. Talked about a lot of people who love Kizomba that love the physical touch aspect of it, but I feel having somebody's undivided attention, which is exactly what quality time is. It doesn't really matter what you're doing, but just knowing that you have somebody's undivided attention, being in the present moment, they're not thinking of anything, they're just completely focused on you. I feel like that's almost every woman's dream. I'm not sure if it's every woman, but I want to say like a high majority of women, because even if you're like romantically involved with a partner, like how often do you get their undivided attention? It's not very, very common. And I feel like a lot of women just crave that undivided attention, just knowing that they're with somebody and that person wants to be with them, And this would be an awesome segue into our kind of emotional intelligence kind of thing, Since we touched on the 5 love languages, I feel we should kind of give a little bit of information behind that. The 5 love languages is this book that was written by the author Gary Chapman, and he talks about 5 different love languages that people use that like to express their love and also receive their love. And it's important to realize that expressing your love in one way and receiving your love is a different way. And depending on who you are and what you're more geared to, you typically score higher in 2 love languages. And so my love languages from top to bottom are physical touch, words of affirmation, acts of service, gifts, and then quality time. And so everybody kind of scores differently, but I've been doing kind of like this undercover survey kind of thing with a lot of hardcore Kizomberos, and the majority of them do score their top two is physical touch. So, I mean, that kind of goes into like maybe some people who just feel Kizomba is meh. They might not be super high on physical touch, you know, and for people who are high on physical touch, Kizomba can be like life changing to the where they will fly 10 hours to go to Europe to dance Kizomba for a couple of hours in Europe and fly back another 10 hours, you know, which happens pretty frequently. So yeah, I think Kizomba has definitely opened up the doorway to like improve my emotional intelligence and nonverbal communication and being able to just feel your own good energy and like recognize the energy in others.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that I experienced, it was like a year ago. I was at a Congress and there was an instructor there who I won't name him. He teaches Kizomba and some other dances, and I'd never danced with him before. And so I asked him to dance. And honestly, even though this was someone who was really experienced and who was an instructor, it was really just the worst dance. And I sort of sensed like his mind was somewhere else. And that's something that you can really notice when you're dancing with someone. And as you become more, I suppose, energy sensitive. So I think the people that are drawn to Kizomba are generally folks who enjoy this kind of connection and maybe are already more perceptive, more emotionally perceptive, or even emotionally intelligent, or kind of even, if you want to be more like metaphysical, more intuitive when it comes to, you know, sensing other people's energy or moods or something like that. So what that said to me was that it's really important, you know, for me to give someone a good dance as either a lead or a follow, to be really actually conscious of what I'm communicating nonverbally. So it's not only with my body language, which of course, I mean, we could say dance is a body language where we're giving clues and sending and receiving information based on, you know, what we're doing with our bodies. And that's especially the case for someone who's a lead and who's initiating different movements, but also, you know, just with our energy. And this is something Marietta pointed out too during one of my privates with her when she was talking about, you know, someone just kind of like putting their arms around you and dancing with you, or just really being more intentional about it. And so for me, like, especially if I'm, for example, leading someone who's brand new, it seems especially important to me to be very, very calm with my energy, because a lot of times, more so with the follows too, they're just so nervous because they don't know what's going to happen. And they're not confident in their ability to follow whatever comes. So I'm really conscious about how I'm communicating just with my own energy. And so for me to like take deep breaths and to be very calm really makes a difference, even though this person can't even see my face. And how that's carried over me, like for me in other areas of my life, is that, you know, when I'm communicating with people, I forget what that statistic is, like what percentage of communication is nonverbal. But it's
I want to say
high.
80 to 20%, 80% nonverbal and 20% verbal.
That sounds right.
That's what my gut. That's what my gut says.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I think that sounds right. And as someone who deals with words in her job, I mean, I was much more focused on what I was saying and not necessarily how I was saying it. But when I see a friend that I haven't seen for a while and I give them a hug and I ask them how they are, the energy that I'm giving them when I ask them that, I try to also convey, like, you know, I'm happy to see you. I really want to hear from you. And I think that makes a big difference in terms of not only communicating effectively, but also feeling very connected, really cultivating that connection even within a conversation with, you know, my friends who I adore so much.
For sure. And just to touch a little bit on like dancing with a new person from a leader's perspective, sometimes you're dancing with a newer follower and she's so nervous sometimes about making a mistake or not knowing what to expect, or just, I mean, I feel like your first job as a leader is to gain her trust. And then your second job is to get her to relax, you know, and she's not going to be able to relax if she doesn't trust you. Instead of trying to impress her or anything like that, you're really just trying to connect with her, feel where her energy state is, and making sure that it's relaxed, because it's so much better and enjoyable and easier to dance with a relaxed follow versus a tense follower. And sometimes people just don't even realize how much tension they have built up throughout the day or over a course of weeks or months or years over underlying issues. So it's almost like a meditative therapy almost, just kind of figuring out and being able to find out exactly where your tension level is, and kind of tying into what we were talking about before about being able to connect with somebody regardless of their race, regardless of their age, regardless of their gender or their economic status or anything like that. I think it's really like it's just going to tie into kind of like it's still within the same topic or the same reason, but the whole like culture. I feel like Kizomba is definitely uniting people as humans. Now, we all know there's a lot of rich culture with Angola and Cape Verde, Compa and like Haiti and Pasada, and like there's a lot of rich cultural experiences and influences on Kizomba, and there's a lot to learn about it. So there's a plenty of awesome instructors that can give you a lot of information on the history and how it was danced back then and what it means to them back then and what it means to them now and things like that. But I feel even outside of that culture, me being able to connect with another human being that's from anywhere, I mean, I've connected with some people that I probably wouldn't have never connected with outside of the dance floor, You have some really nice dance connections. You feel that vibe, and the vibe isn't how they look. The vibe is like how they make you feel. And I feel this kind of inspired the hashtag EarthKiz. We were talking about it in that forum, the Kiz Connection, on how just Kizomba has been uniting people and cultures kind of through its inception, with the whole Zouk and Semba fusion from the beginning. And that was like a mixture of musical genres and also a mix of cultures. So I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to have your own culture, respect your own culture, respect other people's cultures, and then still be able to like connect as human beings,
Absolutely. And of course, it gives you an opportunity to meet people from so many different cultures. And I mean, it's interesting because, Kizomba is obviously an African dance from Angola, but it has drawn in people from all different backgrounds here in the United States. There are folks, like yourself, Charles, whose family who were born here in the United States, but their families from Africa, but maybe a different country in Africa.
Nigeria.
For whom it really resonates, right? There's a lot of Haitian people who dance Kizomba. And because of the Portuguese language and immigration patterns and everything, it's really blown up in Portugal, and perhaps because of some of the linguistic similarities that you have it in Brazil and here in the United States, the way Kizomba has been marketed through the Latin dance festivals, there are a lot of people like you and I actually who are in that world who came over to Kizomba, and they might be Latino or, wannabe Latinos like you and I.
Honorary Latinos, not wannabe.
Okay, honorary Latinos, Latinos de corazón.
Que hablamos español bien.
Claro que sí, hombre. Yeah, or I think probably those of us who are really drawn to do Latin dance in the first place are just people who are open-minded and interested in having international experiences and meeting people from different cultures and listening to music from different countries, spoken in different languages. It's really almost like a way of traveling without actually going anywhere. Sure. And I experienced the same thing with Kizomba that I experienced from traveling, which is that in a sort of ironic way, when you're interacting with someone from a different culture, it's like the usual rules and social norms don't apply. And in a way that kind of allows you to be more authentic and more honest.
I agree for sure. It's a beautiful thing for us to be able to unite on the dance floor with music and dance, which is such a happy thing. And we're not like fighting over politics or like race or like economic status or trying to start a war or anything like that. We're really just being happy and just being human creatures that need that craving of that social contact and that touching contact. So I think that's an awesome way for us to end the 6 reasons why Kizomba sets your heart on fire. Do you have any closing thoughts or PSA announcements for our audience out there, Emily?
I think that is a good place to end it. But maybe another thing to tack on is the follows role if you're dancing with an inexperienced lead. And, Charles was talking about how it's so important as the lead to get the follow, who's the beginner follow, to trust you and to feel comfortable. And I think for follows, the most important thing to give to the lead is a sense of confidence, or to help them with a sense of confidence. And a big way we can help with that is by giving positive feedback in a nonverbal way, by smiling or just conveying with your energy that you're enjoying the dance.
Definitely. And I guess my final advice out there for the leaders is body movement is definitely going to take you a very long way with Kizomba. And outside of like the whole sensuality, oh, she looks sexy kind of thing, really try to get above that and really try to connect with your partner as a being, enjoy her presence without necessarily trying to get into her pants, you know? I feel like guys, we definitely have the capability to elevate to that, you know? And I'm not saying like, okay, like you really like a girl and you want to date her, like that's all awesome. Like we're human beings at the end of the day. You don't have to be like this noble Kizomba dancer that never wants to date anybody, you know? I mean, all of my girlfriends that I've met through dance. So I'm not condoning that at all. But if your main aim is just that the girl can pick up on that, for sure, just like you were saying before, Emily, when you're dancing.
Absolutely.
When you dance with that instructor. So, I mean, if you're looking for that genuinely and not just looking for like fun in the bed for one night, just, I mean, enjoy the dance. And I'll also definitely say keep learning more and more about Kizomba. Emily and I are learning more and more about Kizomba each day as we travel more and more and learn from different instructors. So it's definitely something that you guys want to continue to do. And hopefully with this podcast, we'll be able to put some more information out there for you guys about Kizomba, about music, about dance in general. And that's kind of what I really love about this medium, is that we do get to talk about these things and have a cup of coffee with you, our audience, about these topics that we really put our heart and souls into sometimes, you know?
Absolutely. And again, I mean, there's so much that we love about Kizomba that it took us 2 whole podcasts to get through it. And there's only 6 reasons.
Yeah.
We always end up talking longer than we expect, though, Charles. But if you're not persuaded, if you're not convinced, I mean, I'd encourage anyone listening to inbox Charles or myself, or even better, ask us to dance next time you see us.
For sure. All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you guys in the next podcast, and have a great day.
Ciao.
Beats.